Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Caro. I am a painter. I'm a visual artist from Peru, based in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. And I am a month away from turning 5 years since I took the leap into living from my art, from doing art full-time. And spoiler alert, I don't have a trust fund, I don't have a sugar daddy or sugar mommy. And I live based off my work, and I've been doing so for the past 5 years. So in today's video, I want to share with you the 10 biggest things that I've learned this past 5 years as a full-time artist. This video will just be me here sitting down talking, so feel free to just listen to the audio while you do your own art, crafts, or anything else that you want to do. And let's get right into it. The number one thing that I've learned is having a work structure, having a schedule. You have no idea how much this helps me. I have the luck to have been born in a family where my mom really taught us the importance of having schedules and having structures within our own day-to-day life. So in between that and studying art at college, I was taught that no one will come and check when I'm clocking in, when I'm clocking out, and especially in art school, we had to have our final projects ready for a specific deadline date, but no one was checking us and our advances in all the months prior to that. So it was totally up to us in order to organize ourselves and have things ready when they should be ready. And that really applies to my day-to-day work. I usually start the month planning ahead into everything that I want to accomplish that month. And I also have to-do lists that are not only monthly, but I have weekly to-do lists. And then I have daily to-do lists. I usually do my daily to-do lists the night before that day, and I do my weekly to-do lists the Sunday before my week starts, and that really helps me in order to not only meet the deadlines that I have, but also to have room and have space for rest, which we'll get into, and to have space and time to get into the art projects that I want to pursue that have no deadline whatsoever. I have come to realize that a lot of full-time art work is really you putting yourself imaginary deadlines, and that has helped me so much within having a structure. I have a schedule. I usually work from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. and I have a little break for lunch, and of course there's days that are the exceptions to the rule, and I try to do this 5 times a week. Most of my weeks it ends up being 6 times a week, sometimes 7, but I try to really stick to these schedules because it really helps me organize myself. Just like if you followed any classes within the pandemic, or even right now, you might have come to realize how sometimes you would be rushing in the morning to make it to your online class, when instead if you would have just been doing the class by yourself, instead of starting, let's say, at 7 a.m. with the class, with the people, you would have started probably at 8. So I think that having all these imaginary schedules, or schedules that we put to ourselves, they don't really need to be imaginary, really helps me organize. So I do that with, let's say right now I'm about to finish my pollinator painting, and today is Thursday, and I've put myself the deadline that I want to finish this painting by Sunday. So no one is going to fail me, no one is going to fire me from my job if I don't show up and actually finish on Sunday, but I'm putting all my effort on making that happen, as if actually I, my own boss, would be able to fire myself if I wouldn't make it on time. Of course, with the dance of, being gentle with ourselves and also knowing where our limits stand. But structure, organization, and schedules have been my best friends throughout these past 5 years. Number two is something that I feel a lot of people that are jumping into full-time entrepreneurship or being your own boss may leave outside of the conversation, and that's why I want to touch base on it right away, which is knowing when to rest. When we have a job, we usually clock in and clock out, and I know this is not the way that things actually pan out to be in a lot, if not most, workplaces. Is that usually in an ideal world we would clock out and then we wouldn't have to do anything related to work until we clock back in. And I know this is not true for a lot of jobs, so I'm not being naive about that, but I feel that when we are running our own small business, when we are entrepreneurs, and when we are full-time artists, not only there's no actual clock in and clock out, but also your whole life can become your work time. So I think it's so delicate and so important to know where that fine line is in between, okay, you know what, it's 6 p.m., I've done enough, maybe 7 p.m., I've done as much as I could today, and even though I didn't nail everything in my to-do list, I did as much as I could, and tomorrow I'll have the opportunity to keep going and keep doing other stuff. So of course there's actual deadlines and projects and clients, and sometimes we need to stay up until the next day working, so that's more the exception rather than the rule. But I've come to realize that I am someone that wants to achieve all her points on her to-do list. I have so many projects, so many paintings that I want to create in this lifetime that I feel I don't have enough time to make that happen. So back in the day, I would just work 24/7 and be super, I don't know how to call it, addicted to my work. And I started realizing that this was coming from a lot of different places, one of them being survival mode, which is something that I'm still learning how to let go of. And it's not something easy, especially if your artwork is where your next paycheck is coming and how you'll be paying rent and getting the groceries and all of that. So my addiction to work has come from survival mode. It has come from the uncertainty that making money off your art may bring, because I feel that's a very real conversation, but it doesn't have to be that way. It was very important for me to take out of my mind that the starving artist was the only way to make it, and I'm still learning how to stop thinking that way. It's easier said than done, as a lot of you may experience. So coming from there, and also coming from thinking that my personal value was in my art, and that's one of the biggest ones that within the past 5 years I've let go of, and I've really learned to separate those things. Nowadays I have come to realize that my value is not in the work that I do, and the more work that I do doesn't mean that my value becomes bigger. So I think that if you are feeling super addicted to your work, just an invitation to check in where that addiction is coming from. And as I said, you know, if it's because the more work that we put in, the more money we'll be able to bring in to pay for rent and food and all the stuff that we all need. So yeah, just something that's always in my mind. I've come to realize that when I'm able to rest, maybe I'm not able to have a whole weekend, maybe I'm not able to every day clock out at 6 p.m., but at least having one day a week, or at least having 6 hours a week, and the ones I turn off everything work related and I don't do anything work related, nor read emails, nor anything like that, and just focus on being, that helps me replenish so much and nourish so much and deeply rest in order to not only enjoy life outside of work, but also come back to work with my cup full and energized and ready to go, especially if we are deprivating ourselves from hours of sleep. Our cells replenish and our body replenish itself when we sleep. So I think that's something that's super important for me. I'm nowadays also doing Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is not only the food you eat, but also a lot surrounding your lifestyle and how many hours of sleep and rest you get. So a lot of lessons coming around that. So I think that it is this fine line in between, like doing as much as you can and putting your best effort and really focusing on work / learning how to rest. And as I said earlier, easier said than done. I'm still learning, but it's one of the things that I wish I would have learned starting 5 years ago, and not like 3 years in being like, why am I so burned out? Why do I feel that I don't want to create anymore? And that's because I never clocked out. So I never had that deprivation of, oh, now I actually get to do this, and I am so excited to do my work and answer to emails and do the whole thing. So rest, rest, rest. Before I continue sharing with you the 10 biggest things that I've learned in the past 5 years as a full-time artist, let me say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace has been the virtual home of my art portfolio, online shop, email campaigns, member areas, and so much more since 2018, and I cannot recommend it enough. I am right now super in love with the fact that they have password protected sites in the ones I can share specific portfolios, projects, art shops like the ones that I have for my Patreon, as well as paid member areas for specific offerings that I do. Squarespace just launched. You answer a few questions and they help you optimize your website, the SEO, and the design to fit perfectly for your own taste and your own expertise. If you want to try Squarespace, we are partnering up to offer you a 2-week free trial, and once you're ready to launch, you can use the code Caro Arevalo to get 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain with them. Now, going to a very important topic, which is finances. There will be a few topics about finances as a full-time artist here, but I feel there's 2 ways to live as a full-time artist in my experience, and one of them is having a steady income that may be coming once a month, maybe it's coming once a week, maybe it's coming every other month or whatever. The fact that it's a steady income, that you know at least what's the minimum that you'll have each month, that's one way to do it. So then the question is how to make those revenue streams be consistent every month. And then on the other hand, there are artists who rely on their holiday shop updates, on their end of the year shop updates, on that one sale they do in their online shop once a year. So some artists may rely on that big sales that happen maybe like 3 times a year, and then they save up from those big months that bring a lot of income, and then learn how to separate and use and save throughout the year. So I believe that you can have a mix of both of them. That, in my experience, the ideal situation. I'm still learning how to do that, but I feel that the trial and error is the one that will show you what feels more comfortable for you. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm super comfortable getting a super chunky paycheck in December after my holiday and end of the year shop update, and then I get to save throughout the year and just like separate my money and know how to organize myself in order to work with that money throughout the year. Or maybe you're someone like me, that's my case. I'm someone that feels a little bit more secure and more safety in having a minimum regular paycheck a month. So some of the things that I do in order to have that is I have a Patreon, and the Patreon, it has fluctuated and changed so much throughout the years, but at least right now I know that around certain amount of money from my Patreon will be steadily coming in every month. Of course, I need to show up and make all the things that I've offered my patrons I would do monthly. It's not just like passive income. And then I have partnerships with videos. So I have one sponsor that is my sponsor. We made a contract throughout 1 year, and then I already know that throughout those 12 months of the year, I have to show up and make 2 videos for them a month, and they will pay me a certain amount of money every month for those 12 months. I feel that it's totally up to you how you want to do it. And for me, that the fact that I have a Patreon and the fact that I have a yearly contract with a brand helps me be able to then pursue my paintings that no one has commissioned, that no one has said like, I'm gonna buy this painting as soon as you finish. So I know that I can dedicate so much of my time to these projects that are my personal projects that have no financial revenue up until this moment. So maybe in the future, you know, as a painter, which is the main thing that I do, a lot of my original paintings sell maybe like 5 years after I've painted that painting because I wanted to, not because anyone commissioned it. So I'm going down a whole other topic. So yeah, I feel it's super important to learn through trial and error, try both, see what feels more comfortable, and get sincere with yourself, you know, like this is what actually accommodates me, my mind, my mindset, the way that I love to organize myself. This is the way that we'll do it. So I would suggest try both and see what helps or what feels more comfortable for you. Going into the next topic, I cannot talk enough about how there is no shame with how much time you take making your craft and making some art that is more commercial than your personal projects. I feel that as creators, we can have a gazillion different types of projects as well as different sources of income. And there's projects that I've done which are projects that I truly love and I had so much fun creating, but they are not projects where I've poured my whole spirit into making them happen. I don't feel they're coming like from the secret of the universe. But I feel they are passions to me. They are things that I've enjoyed making so much. Like, for example, I have some sticker sheets. I've had so much fun creating these sticker sheets. They're themes that I love. They're plants and fungi and magic, and they are projects that I've truly loved, and they are products that I totally vouch for. They are made with 100% recycled craft paper, and they have a lot of me in there. But they are not my 2-year fungi painting project, which is like a passion project. It was a beautiful way in the one I could learn about the fungi kingdom, and I did some studies at botanical gardens and so much more. So I feel that there's no shame to have projects that you feel are a little bit more commercial. Or, you know, I was recently speaking to one of my friends and she was sharing about she's going back into doing graphic design while at the same time having her passion projects. And we were talking about how it's not shameful at all to be doing work that may not be in the one you are pouring your whole existence. You know, it's something that you enjoy, you're having fun, you love connecting with the clients whatsoever, but then again, you don't feel it's what you came to do into this world. So I truly cannot stress enough about the fact that I feel there's no shame on having projects that are more commercial and having projects that are more your passion soul projects, because we live in a world where most of us need to pay for life, and even our art studios, you know, even the materials with the ones we create. So I feel it's totally fine to have those different types of projects, and we could do a whole other video of different ways to make money as an artist. And I should start taking my own advice, because there's so many revenues that I haven't even started exploring. Because also I feel there's no shame in taking your time and really doing things when you feel you're ready. If you feel you don't have anything to teach, then don't do an online course. If you feel you are still too shy to do a workshop, or that's something you don't want to ever do, then don't do it, you know. I feel there's so much room for us to really get truthful with ourselves and create in a way that feels fun, challenging, and comfortable at the same time. So taking us out a little bit of the comfort zone, but also teaching us something and being like, I have the expertise in order to do this, and you have to stop me here because I could keep going. So this brings me to number 5, which is very weaved in with number 4, which is what we were just talking about, and that is having a plan so you don't have to rush your creativity. Within the age of social media, the age where people's attention span has decreased into 2.7 seconds from 40 something seconds that it used to be 4 years ago. That's a very big change, and it wouldn't surprise me that it's due to social media and the endless scrolling. So everything goes by so fast. People's attentions are just in a post 2.7 seconds, which is wild. And it can sometimes feel like the world is telling us you need to do more, faster, stronger, better. You know, like the world is like a Daft Punk song. And it's just being like, do more, create more, hurry up, like next thing. And I am a very slow artist. I am someone that is learning how to come back to her natural rhythms, how to really like tune into the seasons, tune into my slowness, tune into my restfulness, and tune into the fact that I love creating so much detail on my paintings, and I don't want to hurry that up for the sakes of social media. And it is because I'm putting so much time and so much effort into the paintings, not because I'm in bed just like binge watching Netflix and then my paintings take forever. It's because they have so much detail that they take forever, and also a lot of research goes into them. And within this 5 years I realized that, like, Caro, you are on the slower side of the creative people. You're not like super fast, like new painting every day. So let's make a plan. How can you buy yourself time in order to devote years, because it's literal years, into your paintings while you keep creating and having fun and having that creative spark alive in you, while at the same time bringing income. So I would definitely invite you to make a plan for yourself. both in how to stay creative and how to stay motivated, how to bring income. And yeah, I'm just thinking a lot about, I feel that it's not like, oh, if I cannot create a new painting every day, then I shouldn't even try being an artist. We all have different ways of creating and connecting, and we all devote different amount of time into our creations. I'm not trying to say that my painting that took 1 or 2 years is better than a painting that took someone 1 year, because I feel it's not something we compare. Each one is birthing their own creative projects, and they all come in their own time, and that's fine. And they are not here to compete against one another. I feel that art is not here to be like whose person's art is better. I feel that it's here to make others feel something as well as the person that is creating it. So just wanted to stress that, because you have no idea how many times I've talked to artists or creators that are saying like, I cannot keep up, I cannot like create as fast as the algorithm is telling me it should. Like, I think we should not live our lives fearing an algorithm, which is pretty much a AI computer thing, which I don't really understand. I don't want to live my life fearing that thing and change my art and hurry up my art because of that, and stop really enjoying the process. So yeah, just creating a plan for you to buy yourself time while you do the things at your own rhythm, whether that's super fast or super slow, no shame on that. Every now and then I'm moving the camera and I'm moving my seat because the sun is moving and I want my face to be lit up still. So number 6, artist block or creative block will come at one point or the other. So planning ahead of time to learn how to avoid it, not forever because it will come, but just delay it, not to experience it that often, and also plan what to do whenever it arrives, because in my experience it will arrive at one point or the other. So some of the ways that I have learned how to avoid creative block is to rest. It's to have different types of projects at the same time, as we were talking earlier, and it's also touching base into other creative outlets. I have a video that I posted earlier this year or last year, which is 5 ways to nourish your creativity, and those are pretty much the 5 ways that I love to really trick creative block and stay inspired and creative throughout the time. So inviting you to watch that video after this one in case you want to touch base more on creative block, and besides how to keep that creative spark alive and avoid creative block for a time. Whenever creative block arrives, have a plan for it, because not every day are days where you want to work on your bigger masterpiece and create the biggest thing. I, as part of being a full-time artist, as you may know because you're watching these, I create videos. So not every day I feel extroverted enough to talk to a camera. There's weeks where I'm like, I just cannot film myself. So I have plans for those days. Whenever I don't feel like painting, I have other stuff, so I focus more on the logistics side of being an artist, like putting the stamps in my mailers where I ship my orders, redoing some stuff in my website, answering to emails, doing those things that I leave in my back burner. Those are perfect for when I'm feeling creative block, not to nourish my creative spark, but to have something to do when I show up to work. If you have a work where you're hired by someone else, there's days where you are in a rut, where you're feeling blue, where you're in your moon, whatever it is, you don't want to be there, but you have to be there. The same applies to being a full-time artist in my experience. So that random Thursday that I don't want to be in the studio and I don't want to paint, what can I do? I can put all the stamps in my mailers. And then that gets me excited because I'm like, some people want to buy my art. Isn't that wild and beautiful and amazing? So then I get excited again. And just having those things that are like, I don't want to do that. And even I do a lot of dots in my art. So sometimes I start the pattern of the dots and I leave that for that creative block day. I already know what to do, and actually doing the dots puts me in this meditative state and invites me to just like go within and see what's happening with me. So have a plan, because creative block will come and it's part of it and it's fine. It's like, this is a relationship that we have with our the creative muse, our creativity, however you want to call it. So plan ahead of time, because some days are, weirder, cringy. So so plan for those days because they will come and it's natural and it's fine. Number 7, it's a big one for me. It's one that I am relearning now, and that is learning how to delegate. I feel that when we start, we may be able to put all the hats and do all the things within our creative business, but there might be moments in time when it's time to delegate, whether that is having a third party do your prints or cut them for you. Maybe it's about having a third party ship your products, or maybe you love doing your products, so you will never work with a third party because that sparks your own creative journey. You know, if you are a painter, then of course you're not going to delegate painting because that's the center of it all. But maybe if you're creating videos, you want to delegate who edits the videos, or maybe hiring people to help you film. Or maybe if you're like, oh, I want to take photographs, maybe hiring someone for that. So there's always ways to delegate some of the things, so then you have a little bit more time in order to create the center of your art, which might be painting, might be crocheting, sculpting, whatever it is. I feel that at first maybe it's not needed, and then there may come a point where you're like, I actually need help, like all of this is like too much, I'm drowning and I cannot do all of these by myself. Having an assistant, you know, having a studio assistant that comes once a week, you don't need to offer someone a full-time job. Maybe you start with a few hours a week and take it from there. And we will talk about taxes in a little bit, but hiring someone and paying them is not the end of the world. I used to be super scared of doing that. Like, am I going to give them a 1099K? How am I going to do this? Like, I have no idea. And after speaking with a financial advisor, I learned that it was the easiest thing in the world, and I was making all these worlds of complications in my mind. So learning how to delegate some of those things. Maybe you want to delegate your social media, or maybe you want to delete it and go running in the forest and hide forever. But delegation, I think, is a big one. And I used to work with my husband. He used to be my assistant in my art studio. He was a bartender, and in 2020 the restaurant closed and I was looking for an assistant, so we started working together, and he helped me with packing orders and shipping orders and editing videos. And a few years later, like 3 years later, we realized that it was not enough. I didn't need an assistant anymore because the amount of work that I was doing really slowed down. So then we stopped working together, and maybe at some point later I will need an assistant again. So just learning what are the things that are not bringing you joy in your work, and that someone else may have the expertise to make that happen. And delegation might be the key to success, so you don't stuck yourself in the same space and you can keep growing and keep expanding in what you're good at. That might be painting, or maybe it is whatever. Number 8, everyone will tell you something different, so learn how to listen, take what's best, and just whatever doesn't flow, whatever doesn't sound good to you, whatever is not your vibe and your way of creation, in one ear out the other, including this video. There might be tips that I'm here sharing with you and you're like, Caro, no way, that's not a tip that helps me. And that's great, because I'm sharing what works for me, and we're all so different. So something that works for me may not work for you, and that goes for everyone, especially the tips of people that have never tried being their own boss, who have never done art full-time, or have never done any entrepreneurial leaps of faith or businesses or ideas. I think that everyone, especially people that we know, may have our best interest in heart. They really want to prevent us and help us from fucking up our life. But at the end of the day, it's you, and you know yourself, and you know what you're good at. And I think that it's great to listen and take what serves and leave what doesn't. I truly go by that, because everyone will tell you something different. A lot of people will tell you, in order to succeed, you need to post every single day at 7 a.m. and do TikTok videos because that's what everyone likes. I'm not into that thing. I'll never do it because it's not the way that I roll. And this might work for a lot of people if it sparks their joy and they're happy. But if it's not you, then don't even try, or maybe try and then be like, yep, my intuition was right. I knew this was not for me. So there's this song by Trevor Hall that goes like, follow the sun. And that's been me this whole video, just moving around, chasing the sun. So yeah, everyone will tell you something different. Some people will be like, in order to make it as a full-time artist, you need to work with a gallery. You need to pay for promotions and ads on YouTube and Instagram, you need to insert comment here, listen to whatever you want. I personally love to hear it all, and then whenever it's not patronizing, because when someone comes with that patronizing attitude and they're like, I know how to make you because you don't know how to do it, my ears stop working and I just cannot hear it. When people with my best interest at heart give me their tips or their consejos, como digo consejos, their advice, and they do it in a sweet way and a patronizing way, I personally like to listen, and then in one ear out the other what doesn't serve, and the other I take it with me, because there's so much that I don't know. I didn't study economics, I didn't study how to be a full-time artist. That was not part of my art curriculum in school, and I'm learning trial and error. These 5 years have been so much trial and error, and not losing patience has been one of the biggest lessons of them all. But everyone will tell you something different, including me. Take what serves, leave what does. So we're almost coming to the end. Number 9. I cannot make this video and not mention these, because these have given me the biggest nightmares of my life. I've cried for weeks non-stop when I realized that I had to pay all my life savings to the IRS, to taxes. So whatever you're charging for a product, for a class, for anything that you're selling as an artist, in between 30 and 50% of that, you want to save that and put that away and know that that money is not yours. It's from the IRS, it's for taxes, and you shouldn't touch that. Then from the 50% that remains, know that you need to pay for whatever it costs to make this product, right? If you made an art course and you hire teachers, pay the teachers, the art supplies, the lights, the editing, the camera, all the gear that goes into creating something. If it's a painting, all the art supplies, the print paper, the printing company, the shipping, all the goodies that go into it. And then whatever is left from that 50% that you have left, maybe 25% went into the art supplies and materials that you use. Maybe you're also paying rent for your art studio and the lights and the electricity and the Wi-Fi. And maybe you are now left with a 15 or 20%. And now with that 20 or 15% that you're left, you can ask yourselves, am I investing these back into my creative business, or am I taking these and using it for myself, or saving it, or whatever you want to do? But the most important thing that I wanted to mention here is knowing that in between 30 and 50% of what you're charging, you should save and leave that, because that money is not yours, it's from taxes. And this makes me cry so much all the time, because it's like all my effort, and then you're left with like 5%, and also, your website and Stripe or PayPal or whatever paying online company you're using. If you are doing stuff online, they take the 3% or the 5% or the 8%, and it's a whole thing. So just knowing to save a little, not a little, 30 or 50% beforehand, I think has been so helpful for me. So anytime that I put a price into whatever I'm doing, I know that that price, 50% is not mine. So something that costs $100, it actually costs 50, because the other 50 are not mine. And from the 50 that I have left, I have to do like all the paving and supplies and everything that I just mentioned. So I wished I would have known this from day one, because it would have saved me so many sleepless nights and tears of being like, am I just working for the IRS? Is that everything that I'm doing? But then again, coming back to, I am really envisioning that we don't need to be starving artists, because there's so many other realities and so many other artists that are thriving and having the time of their life creating and not having to worry about how to make an income. So lastly, Number 10 is always remembering why you started in the first place. For me, I am reminded of these by feeding my creativity, by not only always being a student. I feel I will always be a student. I'm always trying to perfect and get better at my own craft. So I want to study scientific illustration at one point. I haven't been able to start, but I want to start saving for that. And it's one of my dreams because that is in the expertise that I am on. My art is all about plants and fungi and slowly animals. So scientific illustration is the next step for me in the art making. But I feel that always getting better at your craft, not only by keep creating, because I feel we learn so much from creating all the time, we get better at it, but also taking classes for me is one of my favorite things. Even though I'm not in scientific illustration just yet, I feel I'm a forever student. I'm always learning and taking little workshops here and there. And besides getting better at your own craft, in my case, watercolors and scientific illustration, is I love to always just think about how to keep that creative spark alive. And coming back to that video, I'm going to link it on this video's description. I love to always learn something that has to do with my art and also that has nothing to do with my art, but are still stuff that is so important for me. Right now I'm finishing a certificate on sound healing with a sound healer from Peru that I love, and I love her craft, so I'm always learning. I've taken so many apprenticeship with Cacao, which is one of my favorite allies, and music and meditation, and learning how to make my own watercolors from earth and minerals and dirt. And I feel that that's the way that the creative spark keeps alive, and that reminds me of why I want to do what I do in the first place. A big part of me of how I spark my creativity is by being out here in nature, and that reminds me of going camping. Is such a big reminder for me, like this is why I do what I do, because I love nature and I love learning about it, and there's just infinite beauty, and nature is so easy to love, so I just want to keep creating. So finding ways to remind yourself why you do in the first place, because in my experience, being a full-time artist is not the easiest job out there. There's definitely way more difficult jobs in the world, don't get me wrong. We have so much privilege to have something that we love to create and we want to make it our full-time job, but as much as we love it, it might not get easier because we have a talent or because we love what we do so much. So finding ways to remind yourself this is why I do what I do in the first place is so important, because in my experience there's so many moments where I've been ready to give up, like this is so difficult, like I'm not good at it, I'm not ready for it, like I cannot keep going and trying and knocking doors and they not opening. But then being reminded, like, no, this is what I love and this is why I love doing it, is such a key reminder. That and patience. So doing that and meditating the whole time and being in nature. But anyways, that's all I have for you. I hope this video was a little helpful, inspiring, and as I said, take in what serves, leave out what doesn't. And if you have any tips for me, maybe you've been doing full-time art for longer than I have. If you have any tips for me or for anyone else watching this video, please leave it in the comments, because it would be beautiful to just keep learning from one another. And thank you for being here, for sharing your precious time with me. Thank you once again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. I hope you have a beautiful day ahead, and I will see you some other time. Bye.